Alright my friends, so to be honest here, I have been waiting quite some time to say this, but the boys is back in town! And today my friends, we shall be taking a comprehensive look at the Old World update for the Greenskins that is going to be coming in tandem with the Warden and the Paunch DLCs. Certainly very excited. So we're going to be looking at everything here in this video, ranging from the multiplayer aspects of the update, so the items they can bring in multiplayer, their new abilities, their applications, all the way to the campaign stuff. So we shall be looking at the WAAAGH mechanic in the campaign. In multiplayer, we're going to be looking at the new scrap mechanic, which is very similar to the Dwarven crafting system, although it's more on a unit-to-unit basis, the new tech tree, the new legendary lord skill trees, the WAAAGH rewards, all sorts of good stuff. And I have to say, guys, it is really awesome. So on that note, I hope you guys have your best snacks and you're sitting back and relaxing. Get that good old Skarsnik mushroom treat, and we will see you guys in the multiplayer review. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we shall begin this video by taking a look at the biggest and the baddest of all the Greenskin legendary lords, Grimgor Ironhide. So Grimgor was terrible for quite some time, but I have to say, Grimgor has gotten some really good buffs that have made him a pretty potent duelist. Very powerful, very tanky, so let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at why. So his first new ability here is You're Next. So it does last for 24 seconds. It can target an enemy in 150 meter range, and they have to be a lord or a hero. But as you guys know, in multiplayer and in campaign, but more so in multiplayer, anything that has a slow on it is very powerful. So it lowers their melee attack by 24, their speed by almost 50%, actually a 48% speed debuff, and also lowers their melee defense by 40. So this is a really powerful ability. It's very much reminiscent of Wulfric's Hunter of Champions, and it's almost identical, actually. Wulfric's Hunter of Champions slows and also lowers combat stats. But, you know, for Grimgor, this is really nice. Grimgor is a footlord. He has 38 speed, so he's not like the same speed as like baseline infantry. He's kind of like a mixture of a monstrous monstrous infantry slash regular infantry. He's got 38 speed and pretty good mass now after a couple buffs. But nonetheless, this is really good. It's going to allow him to catch characters that are a little bit faster, maybe an enemy caster, or if your opponent does make a mistake and puts down a big fast lord near Grimgor, this could be the difference between catching that character and not. And there's also some really powerful synergies. If you're playing in multiplayer with Grimgor, you can use this. You can then use a Goblin caster and cast Gork'll Fix It, which slows by another, I think, 48% or 45%. It pretty much put the speed of Grimgor's target at almost nothing. And even if Grimgor can't get to that target, you can still use it if there's something else going on. Let's say they land elsewhere in your ranks and some Black Orcs, a giant Arachnok spider is fighting something, an enemy lord. Grimgor can pop this from a pretty good range of 150 meters, and it really is a very powerful ability. On top of that, he does have another ability called the Blood-Forged Armor, I should say an item. So this is an item you can, of course, bring in multiplayer, and it only recharges if he is in melee, but it does AoE magic damage. It's very similar to like Verminous Valor, for example. It kind of knocks things back, it does some decent magic damage, and this is actually a really nice boon for the Greenskins against undead factions. In Grimgor, you know, with the immunity to the psychology plus the ability to do magic damage, might actually be a decent pick against like vampire counts or factions that are really looking to abuse the fact that Greenskins don't have a lot of ways of dealing with ghostly units, but he does have an AoE magic explosion now with the Blood-Forged Armor. But what's really cool is even if you don't really care about the explosion, if Grimgor is in a hard duel or he's taking a lot of damage, you can actually just pop this and get plus 30 armor. So that is the Blood-Forged Armor. And of course we have Gitsnik here, it gives armor-piercing weapon damage, melee attack, and we do have Get Back here. Now that's not all. Grimgor does have another passive ability, and this is constant. It's called Best of the Best. So if you look at this, when there's an enemy lord or hero nearby, so you can see the ability range is 30 meters, so pretty close. It's more so when he's in a duel or being attacked. It gives him plus 10 melee defense, putting him up to a whopping 55, which is actually really powerful. And on top of that, if you look, it does give him 11% ward save against all damage. So that can be against spirit leeches, that can be against, you know, any sort of focus fire. Let's say Grimgor is like near an enemy character, like a paladin of Bretonia, and some archers are shooting him. He's going to be getting the ward save against the archers because the character is nearby. So it really gives Grimgor a lot more to work with. And honestly, I don't think Grimgor is going to be the most powerful character in the game, but for his cost line, his base is 1,800, but if you bring all his items now, Grimgor does cost about 2,200 gold in multiplayer. He's really scary for sure. He can actually duel, and I'll be doing a separate video that'll probably be coming out after this one, where you guys will see Grimgor dueling a bunch of really powerful duelists from the old world. Kolek, Tyrion, and honestly, he really holds his own and can defeat some really powerful characters that you wouldn't expect. So that's pretty much it for Grimgor. He got the best is the best, the best of the best, best of the best. He did also get the Blood-Forged Armor and You're Next. So some really powerful game-changing abilities, which will be very good in campaign as well as multiplayer. So while we're here in this custom battle, I want to show you guys the new WAAAGH mechanic. So you'll notice that down here, the WAAAGH is not with Grimgor. It is now an army ability. If you look on the right-hand side of the screen, the WAAAGH is now something that is not active in the beginning of the game. It is actually very similar to like Murderous Prowess for the Dark Elves, in that the more time your units are engaged in melee combat, you actually charge a meter bar up here at the top. So you can see the current WAAAGH is 213, 0 of 213. So points are generated for each entity engaged in melee. So the more units you have in melee, the better. When enough points are generated, the bar will fill up and the WAAAGH ability will become available for use. The more friendly units in the battle, the more points required to fill the bar. Each use of the ability also increases the number of points required. So it does have diminishing returns. So after you use the WAAAGH for the first time, it takes longer to come back the second time. But nonetheless, it's very, very strong. So in multiplayer, this is the baseline WAAAGH here, but if you're in campaign, each of the Greenskin Legendary Lords does have its own unique WAAAGH, which we will be jumping into. That's going to be the second part of this video, is taking a look at all the campaign stuff and the unique WAAAGHs for each character. Grimgor has his own as well. But this is the baseline one for campaign. 25% AP damage, 24 melee attack, immunity to psych for your whole army, which is really good, and plus also 25% base weapon damage. So clearly it's very strong. You're not going to have it in the beginning of the battle, but of course, once you get engaged, and it comes out pretty quick, to be honest, you're going to be able to get that WAAAGH going, and it is certainly quite cool. So I will be showing you all that, don't worry, later in the video. So that is it for Grimgor, guys, and now we're going to be jumping on over to the other Greenskin Legendary Lords, the old school ones, and taking a look at their new items as well. And now, my friends, we return with the Warlord of 8 Peaks, Skarsnik. So Skarsnik didn't quite get the makeover that Grimgor got, but nonetheless, he got a pretty cool ability. So let's go ahead and take a look. It is called Fermented Fungi. So this one has 3 charges, a 90-second cooldown, and a 36-second duration. So that's really good. So you can target an enemy within 100 meters. So that's insanely powerful, especially in multiplayer. So for example, let's say the enemy Lord's flying nearby. He's kind of, giving you that eye. He's teasing. He's flying overhead. Well, Skarsnik can, apparently he can throw a mushroom up in the sky. You hex that character. It lowers their melee defense by 24, but it also rampages them. And I honestly think this is going to be one of the best abilities for the Greenskins in multiplayer. It is so good. Skarsnik himself is pretty tanky, 5,000 HP, he has charge defense, he has anti-large, he has AP, he has poison, and he's pretty tricksy and tough to bring down for sure. But this is just so damn good. And this could be any enemy. So let's say some enemy cav units are harrying your flanks, or units are harassing you. Skarsnik can throw the mushrooms at them, rampage them, which means they're going to charge you, and you can have the perfect ambush for them. I think that the fermented fungi is going to be one of the best abilities in multiplayer for the Greenskins. It is so good. I mean, Grimgor is really good, but what this brings to the table of being able to just bring something in and just pretty much take them out. Like, let's say Franz is flying overhead, or King Lewin, or any character, and oftentimes that does happen to the Greenskins quite a bit, right? These really annoying cab units or flying monsters or big, harassing characters will come in and try and goon you and run away. Well, with Skarsnik, he can throw a mushroom at them, they'll rampage them, which brings them to you, and not only are they rampaged, but they also get their melee defense lowered. I think this is really cool and goes a long way to making Skarsnik a very, very cool, solid pick, and I think there's going to be some really powerful synergies with this for sure. Aside from that, he's got his Trixie Traps, his Skarsnik Prada, pretty much all the same other stuff here, but he does Spy to the Bad Moon is actually different now as well. So it does have a duration of 20 seconds, it affects nearby troops, and also gives a bonus first large to all nearby allies. So that's really powerful as well. Let's say Skarsnik is sitting with some Black Orcs or maybe some Squig Herds who normally are bonus first infantry. Well, suddenly they can become bonus first large. Let's say Cav are charging in, Skarsnik can rampage them, he can give bonus first large to the defenders, and they can deal with the charging threats. It's really powerful, and I'm honestly really excited to try out Skarsnik in multiplayer. So that is it, guys. Oh, look at Gobbler, giving him a nice look there. That's adorable. And we'll see you guys with the next Lord. All right, guys, and now we're back with WAAAGH. So for WAAAGH, he does have a really cool new item called Slaga's Slashes. So this is an AoE buff. It gives melee attack and leadership to nearby units and himself, which is really good. I mean, these baseline buff abilities are really common. That's why you see Karl Franz or the Reikland Runeret. And now, my friends, we're back. And now for WAAAGH. Here we go. All right, guys, and now we're back with WAAAGH. So for WAAAGH, he does have a... All right, guys, and now we're back with WAAAGH. So for WAAAGH, he does have a couple new items, and the first one is going to be the Slaga's Slashes, which is very good. And you see this like, and now, my friends, we're back with WAAAGH. So for WAAAGH, he does have a couple new items that have been added to the game, and the first one is going to be Slaga's Slashes. And so much of the Greenskin items and naming and nomenclature is just so tough to say, but nonetheless, this is a really good item. It gives 10 melee attack and 4 leadership to all nearby troops, and of course, leadership is a big issue for Greenskins. And the melee attack certainly doesn't hurt, and this is constant. It's not something you have to activate like the Reikland Runefang. And Reikland Runefang with Karl Franz, his sword, which gives nearby units leadership and melee attack, is one of the reasons why he's so good. And this is constant. Yes, it's not quite as impactful as 20 plus melee attack, but the fact that it's constant, it buffs himself. It's really, really good. So again, 10 melee attack, 4 leadership, affects allies in range. It's a nice little aura. Now, the other item we have here is on the far side. It is called the WAAAGH's Ard Armor, and this affects allies as well, but it's something you have to activate. So it gives armor and melee defense. And again, so WAAAGH is going to be this really mobile character. 110 speed, he gets around, he's buffing up units. If you have a big alpha strike happening somewhere, or a big fight in the center engagement, he's going to be able to get there, provide some buffs, use some magic, and pull back without taking too much damage. And I do think all these greenskin characters. Grimgor's like so much better. I think WAAAGH is a lot better. And of course, Skarsnik is going to be really good as well with the ability to rampage nearby enemies. I mean, come on, what more can you ask for? It's really solid. But aside from that, not really any other changes to WAAAGH in terms of multiplayer. He's got WAAAGH's Ard Armor, and he does also have the Slaggus Slash It, which you guys, of course, have seen. So melee attack, as well as leadership buffing. And here we do have WAAAGH's Ard Armor. So now, guys, we're going to be jumping on over to the next character. Now, I think that WAAAGH did not get any changes. I will double check, and if he did, we'll have it in the video. But if you didn't, we'll be moving on to the next section of the video, which is going to be showing you guys how the WAAAGH meter does fill up here in battle. So I actually was correct that WAAAGH did not get any changes, really, because WAAAGH was already super good. Bonewood Staff is probably one of the best items in the entire game in multiplayer. And yeah, he was pretty solid. So WAAAGH did not get any changes as it pertains to multiplayer. But of course, he does have changes in campaign, which we will be taking a look at. So the Night Goblin Warboss is the next character, and he was already super good. The Night Goblin Warboss does have the Tormentor Sword. I didn't bring it here because nonetheless, you guys already know about that, but he's got the Fermented Fungi as well. So much like Skarsnik, he has this ability, which, and honestly, it might even be better here because he can actually ride on a giant squig. So he can ride around, he can rampage things a little bit easier, and it's incredibly strong. So he does have the Fermented Fungi, which you guys saw earlier, melee defense and rampage. But he also has a new vortex called the Boss's Loon. So it's a small little vortex, causes AP damage, and yeah, it's honestly not bad. You can see here it does have 2 charges, 90-second cooldown. We'll go ahead and use this real quick and show you guys what it looks like. So yeah, I think he just kind of throws some loonies out here. So yeah, here he comes. That's really cool. Like suddenly a bunch of loons just appear. And the Fermented Fungi, of course, you can see I could like click on Kolek and wow, that's off for a second. I was like, is that the range of that yellow bar? But no, it's not. But that is going to be the Night Goblin Warboss, guys. He does have the Fermented Fungi and a new Vortex ability called Boss's Loons. So we've also had some minor changes to the Goblin Great Shaman as well. So not too much. I mean, he has the same spells, of course. His itemization is the exact same, but he has a new ingrained ability called Don't Even Try It. Goblins in general are a little twitchy, to say the least. If you flinch too soon, you'll probably already be dead. So from the looks of this, it's a direct damage spell, so much like a Libra Bubonicus type effect. It can target an enemy within 100 meters, and it actually adds to their recharge time and does damage. So this is pretty much the exact same as Arcane Unforging, so that's really cool, actually. The Goblin Great Shaman has a built-in Arcane Unforging, which, yeah, I mean, can't complain. It's a nice little buff for sure. And yeah, he's looking quite jolly. Goblin Great Shaman coming in hot with the Arcane Unforging. And now, my friends, for the humble Orc Warboss. So for the Orc Warboss, he does indeed have a new ability called Smash Him Faster. So this one gives melee attack and leadership. Not much to say here. Very generic, something you see like Fight or Die with Norska. It's just your common Lord buff for melee attack, leadership, and any number of stats. But yeah, certainly doesn't hurt. So there you have it, guys. Orc Warboss with Smash Him Faster. And now the last of the lords and heroes to actually have gotten a change is the Goblin Big Boss, who actually has a really nice buff. And this is very much reminiscent of like the Vampire Coast characters. It's called They Needs Stabbin'. So it's a hex ability, 150 meter range, can target lords or heroes, and it lowers armor and melee defense. So, stacking Taunt and Hornswoggle with Vampire Coast is super strong. But now the Greenskins have something similar, and it's in a very cheap package. The Goblin Big Boss, I think when you strip him down to just like the wolf or the spider, only costs like 400 or 600 gold. So it's really good. And also in campaign, I mean, this is great. Something in the early game can really help your lords win those duels against the AI legendary lords or just regular lords. Very good stuff. So the Goblin Big Boss, they need stabbing. Yes, they do indeed, my friend. And now, guys, that's going to be it. So we're going to be jumping into a battle and actually showing you guys how the new battle WAAAGH mechanic works. And of course, from there, we'll jump into campaign and show you guys how the new campaign map WAAAGH works. And I have to say, it's a lot better for sure. So we'll see you guys in just a second. All right, my friends, and now we're here in a custom map to take a look at how the WAAAGH mechanic works in battle. So here we have 4 Black Orcs as well as Grimgor Ironhide facing off against some Chaos Warriors and some Marauders and also Prince Sigvald here. I figured we'd have Grimgor just beat the brakes off Sigvald for a little bit of entertainment. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and jump in and show you how this works. So we got some Black Orcs here. Let's go ahead and give them attack orders here, and you guys can go here as well. Let's get everyone going in there to party. Yes, looks good. So, of course, we don't have the WAAAGH at the beginning of the battle. It only appears once you do get the meter filled up, very much like Murderous Prowess and some of those other abilities there, so the Black Horse can engage here. And Grimgor, we're going to go ahead and show you what kind of damage you can do. Hopefully you can find Prince Sigvald and have a fun little fight here. But now you'll notice as soon as we're in combat, the meter is filling up. And again, the more units we have in melee contact, the better it is. So here we also have the duel. Let's go ahead and pop the debuffs here and make sure we get all the goodies going. And you're going to see how badly Prince Sigvald just gets whooped on by Grimgor. It is... it's going to be quite brutal for sure. So we do also have the Bloodforged Armor. Hopefully I can show you that at some point here. Nonetheless, the Black Orcs are holding it down to the front line. Sigvald is, he's a pretty high melee defense duelist. He does have Deadly Onslaught, but now you can see the WAAAGH is active. So we're going to pop this, and it affects the whole army, which is so nice that it's now an army ability and has nothing to do with, for example, the character, because Arcane and Forging and other abilities like that could cause some pretty big problems. So Grimgor, laying a spanking on Sigvald, no surprise here. Sigvald does lack AP and, of course, doesn't have all the cool updates and different things like that Grimgor has now gotten. But Grimgor took a little bit of damage. And those troops have been forced back here. Maybe Sigvald will break here in a moment. But you can see it's already recharging. So, you know, it comes back relatively quick as long as you're staying like and really just grinding in combat. And now I'll move Grimgor over here as well and show you his blood-forged armor. So Grimgor, come, yes, get to battle. It doesn't do too much against armor. It's really good against like lightly armored troops, but we'll get him in here and we'll pop this in just a second. I'll just do it right here so you can see. Does a little bit of damage, knocks back the troops. It's more so to give him armor and give him a little bit of cushion, but the WAAAGH is active again. So you can see like it comes pretty quick. The WAAAGH ability, of course, but now you can see like the diminishing returns. It takes longer and longer. It doesn't fill up as quickly as it just did, but the first two WAAAGHs come very quickly. And of course, you can see it's really powerful. Now that gets even better in campaign. And again, we'll jump in right now and show you all the campaign stuff because, man, some of the unique WAAAGHs are really badass. And now, my friends, it is time to take a look at all the campaign goodness here that the Greenskins have to offer. So firstly, let us begin with Grimgor. So for Grimgor, his faction is now known as Grimgor's Ardboys, certainly quite cool. But here's what I wanted to show you. Now, as far as most of the campaign stuff, like the Blackwork buffs and the campaign movement range, that is pretty much the same for all of the different factions. However, you can see here the WAAAGH has a chance to contain Black Orc. So the WAAAGH effect is something that now actually becomes a part of your army. It doesn't spawn a second army on the campaign map. Rather, the WAAAGH is simply added to your army. So they just follow you around, like actually attached. You don't even see them as like a moving force. But when you engage in battle, they're part of your army. So the WAAAGH grows in time as you plunder and just kind of push on and do more and more damage. The WAAAGH kind of grows and grows in strength, kind of like a gathering force. Now, each of the different Greenskin armies does have a different buff for this. So for Grimgor, for example, his WAAAGH has a chance to contain extra Black Orcs, which is quite cool. So that's going to be kind of the pertinent thing you get. And of course, Grimgor does have the ability to, buff up Black Orcs and whatnot, but I'm not sure if that actually affects the WAAAGH troops. We'll have to take a look at that. But yeah, he gets the Black Orcs in his kind of buffed army, and you also get to control them, which is really nice. So you don't have to worry about the AI doing anything stupid with them, and it's such an improvement. So yeah, he gets that, and also on top of that, if you look down here, you can see the new ability we talked about, your next, but Grimgor also gets his own unique WAAAGH. So if we look at Skarsnik, for example, and scroll down, Skarsnik has Doomdiver Catapult in his WAAAGH. So that's basically what he gets. And for him, he gets his own unique WAAAGH. If we look at WAAAGH gets extra Savage Orc. So this can range from Savage Orc Biggins to regular Savage Orcs. That's just pretty much what his WAAAGHs are consisted of. They all pretty much come with like Goblins and Orc Boys, but that is what he gets. And last but not least, for the Old World update, we do also get a new faction here. So WAAAGH has actually had a new starting position. So that's something I wanted to address as well. You can see he starts in the Northern World's Edge Mountains near Ostermark. So he's pretty much like up by Kislev, very much a northern faction. Something that like when Game 3 comes out, he's going to be, pretty embroiled up there. But he gets Wyverns in his. So there's actually feral Wyverns. Yeah, it's really cool. So he actually gets those in his WAAAGH, which is really, really quite nice, especially in like siege battles for flying over and causing problems. And he also gets his own MECHANK as well with his own WAAAGH, or however the hell you're supposed to say that. My apologies if I'm mangling that. I'm trying my best here, guys. So anyways, that is the basics. So next we're going to be jumping on in, and we shall jump in with WAAAGH's campaign to show you guys the new scrap mechanic, show you guys the new starting location, pretty much everything you need to know about this update, with, of course, the exception of the DLC content, which we will be allowed to cover at some point, I'm sure. All right, guys, so let us jump in and have some fun. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are here in the campaign map with our good old friend WAAAGH in his new starting position. So let's go ahead and take a look. So as far as his keep goes, he does start at Carrick Ungor, which is very close to the Chaos Waste up north. You can see here we do have the Bear Sonling's camp, Volksgrad, Prague. I mean, you're really going to be up in the business of Kislev very, very quickly. On top of that, we do have some dwarves nearby. We do also have this kind of a road that leads down here to, of course, Karasa Karak. So it's a very fun, different starting position, and also very strong, especially considering you do have a gold mine here at Carrick Ungor. And if I'm not mistaken, there's another gold mine down here. So certainly a very, very good position to start in my opinion. Granted, you do have to fight dwarves, which can be a little bit tricky in the early game, but that is a discussion for another day. Now, really, let's jump into the good stuff. Let's waste no more time. So the WAAAGH up here at the top, you can see it's kind of like the grumbling mechanic for the dwarves in a way. If your fightiness or your WAAAGH kind of spirit, or I guess your reputation is what it's actually called, is very low, you take penalties. -50 growth, -5 obedience, leadership on all armies across the entire campaign map. So you definitely want to have a good reputation. It also hurts your recruitment cost. I mean, it's really, really nasty for a bottom feeder. But you do start as a straggler, so that gives you growth, obedience. Of course, it's kind of the baseline with which you build up from. But a WAAAGH is an unstoppable force that can be unleashed once your faction gains sufficient reputation through winning battles, number one, and raising settlements. So those are the two fastest ways to really build this up. Once a call to WAAAGH is targeted against an enemy, additional mobs will basically flock to your army. So they become a part of WAAAGH's army. You don't actually see them here in this screen. But when you go to fight a battle, there's this constantly building force. It generally starts off with a couple orc boys, a little bit smaller, but as you kind of push more and more and get more aggressive and the WAAAGH becomes more fighty, it gets stronger. And like you saw in the previous screen, each faction has like different troops. So with WAAAGH, you're going to be getting bonuses of Wyverns, Grimgor gets Black Orcs, etc., etc. So certainly very fun. So basically, to extend the duration of the WAAAGH, you'll see up here at the top, the call to WAAAGH is active. When you do activate it, it actually starts to degrade over time. It eventually falls apart. It's like an army that you've gathered and starts to dissipate as you don't really do much. But if you're really active with it, it kind of prolongs the duration of the WAAAGH. So you can actually get it going very long if your army can sustain and keep fighting for long periods of time. So battle abilities are boosted, raising enemy capital. Raising the enemy's capital within the allotted time or occupying it when the WAAAGH ends will grant a trophy and rewards in addition to the building momentum. So when you call the WAAAGH, it actually gives you a target. So I can't show you right now, but again, I will show you once I unlock it here, and it'll be about 2 or 3 minutes here in this video. You can click on a different settlement. So I could click on Kislev, for example, and if you're actually able to take that out, you get a reward, which is really cool. So once a call to WAAAGH is made, a preview trophy with the rare specific effects will be displayed here. It's really fun. It gives you an objective, kind of a mini mission to do, and you also get to have this big, awesome, epic army. So again, to get this going, you basically just need to raise settlements and win battles, which of course is all about what the Greenskins enjoy, I suppose. So that is the new WAAAGH mechanic. And of course you saw it, and you guys will be seeing it here in battle, that WAAAGH does have his own unique WAAAGH, which we'll show you in just a moment. So here, we can now go ahead and show you the scrap mechanic. So the scrap mechanic is the next one here. Greenskins know not to waste good battle salvage. So essentially, as you fight battles, you get scrap. It's kind of like the loot you get after a battle. Gathering any bits of scrap they find after battles or raising settlements. Scrap can be used to upgrade your or improve your boys' armaments or research technologies. Aside from that, just underway down here is pretty much standard stuff. So you'll notice if you look here at the Orc Biggins, there's a little kind of a upgrade arrow. So each unit is upgraded individually. So if we go to scrap upgrades, you'll notice here WAAAGH and all the different characters. So right now, we'll cut on the screen and you guys will see each of the different Greenskin characters has their own custom upgrade. For him, his is Wizardly Weapons, which basically you can use your magic infusion, strange magics, to give extra armor-piercing damage to your troops, which is actually really nice against the dwarves early on. But nonetheless, you can see you have reinforced weapons, which is way better. 25% weapon damage here and additional armor from scrap armor. Now, these ones are locked or essentially blocked by your tech tree. So we'll show you that in just a moment. But nonetheless, I can click on the Wizardly Weapon, upgrade them. It'll use scrap here, which you can see the meter is 30 scrap at the moment. So you can see it's gained from previous WAAAGH successes, discovered in battle, technology, missions. Raiding also grants us raising settlements, and it can be used with technology, unit upgrades, all that sort of good stuff. So certainly very, very cool. I'm digging it quite a bit. So we will be doing some of that and showing you guys. But just for the sake of this video, let's go ahead and do the Wizardly Weapon. So now you can see it appears here, and he gets plus 6% armor piercing damage as long as his leadership is not wavering with the Wizardly Weapon. It did use some of our scrap, but that is A-okay. So now we go into the big thinking, and oh my god, the Greenskin tech tree was just so outdated and so freaking haggard, and it is so much better now. So if you look around here, you can see we do have the gobos here. So this one, for example, gives leadership to goblins, missile damage, just all sorts of stuff, upkeep. I mean, it's a really cool tree. But now you'll notice there are some which actually have the little scrap icon. So right here, for example, this one's called Boar Riding. So this allows you to upgrade your Orc Boar Boys, your Orc Boar Boy Biggins, or Chariots. It also does have passive stats as well, so it gives armor to those units and charge bonus to Orc Boar units, but more importantly, it allows you to upgrade those scraps. So, for example, if you're really looking to like upgrade a certain type of unit, you simply find out in the tree, this is for Boars here, and yeah, there's just stuff for Black Orcs, there's stuff for everything. So you can find it here in the tree. This gives campaign movement range, this one gives like Spider Rider stuff, this one gives, it's just all sorts of cool stuff. It is really neat for sure. So that is pretty much it for the skill tree. I mean, there's a lot to explore. There's some stuff, of course, that will be touched upon later once we're, allowed to really go deep dive into that. But that is the skill tree. It is very, very dense and very cool indeed. You can see there's actually some unique characters you can unlock, some legendary lords that have unique abilities and really just go quite deep indeed. So that is the big thinking. And that is it. And of course, you can see here, we even have the troll upgrades. So for example, you have water flasks, so this can give them perfect vigor and give them weapon strength. There's upgrades for everything. Even Goblin Rock Clubber here, you can be upgraded as well for combat, skin sacks for reload time, and also for range, another 20%, which I mean, that's really, really cool. So yeah, really allows you to customize your army and play the way that you want. So those are the basics, guys. And now we're going to go ahead and grab WAAAGH. We shall jump into a battle here in just a moment, and we'll show you the unique WAAAGH. And now, my friends, let's go ahead and take a look at the reworked skill trees. So we're not going to be diving into everything here because we're not really allowed to touch upon anything pertaining to the DLC yet. However, in today's video, we can look at some of the basic stuff here, like the gobos. So the red line, the blue line, some of the unique abilities up top for WAAAGH. All of these things have undergone major changes, which certainly are going to make these campaigns a lot more engaging. So you can see here, the gobos gives ammunition for night goblins, gives missile strength, also gives melee attack. And I've noticed that a lot of the red line buffs are more all-encompassing right now. So for example, this is going to buff up like all your goblin units rather than buffing up like a certain type. And yeah, goblin and night goblin infantry units, that'll hit everything. Fanatics, regular goblins, nasty skulkers, you name it. And here we have Du Bois, for example. You can see here it gives missile strength, melee attack for all orc units, including your black orcs, reload time. Pretty cool for sure. So there's been so many changes. If you guys would actually be interested in seeing something where I go over all the different skill trees, it would take me a long time because there are a lot of changes and kind of tracking between the two. But if you look up top, you can see it's imbued by madness, so upkeep for orc and big and infantry units and cavalry. A lot of cool stuff, very orc focused, insane visions. Some of the stuff was there before, but obviously now the trees are very, very updated and there's a lot of fun abilities to be had. And the Dark Nimbus also gives some Winds of Death and Regeneration, very cool indeed. So there you have it, guys. All the Greenskin Legendary Lords have had massively reworked trees, and hopefully we'll get a chance to show you guys that in the near future. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one. So another new mechanic we're going to be taking a look at here today for the Greenskin rework is actually the new Confederation mechanic. So much like Norsco, when the Greenskins actually defeat a faction leader, you're given an option to confederate or to do a couple other nasty things. So here we are with WAAAGH. Let's go ahead and just auto-resolve this. We should be able to win it. There we go. That is the faction leader here. Ornery backslider. Quite a sneaky git indeed. Now let's go ahead and see what happens. So we'll just go ahead and occupy the settlement for the sake of this. And now you're going to see a big old screen is going to pop up in just a moment, which is going to give us some tactical options with how to deal with that faction. So we can form confederation, we can release the enemy lord, which is kind of strange because you're like at war with them, and I guess maybe it like soothes or creates some sort of a alliance or non-aggression pact or something. But nonetheless, this would increase your relations with them. Or you can actually execute the enemy warlord. The enemy faction leader is taken out permanently. So from there, they basically lose their legendary lord. But obviously in this situation, we're going to go ahead and do a confederation. So we basically get the remaining territories, same as your typical confederation in campaign. And that is it. So now Greenskins have the new confederation mechanic with other Greenskins. Quite cool for sure. You can definitely spread very quickly through the Badlands with Grimgor by just going and karate chopping the other Greenskin lords. So before we jump into the battle here, let's go ahead and take a look at the unique battle cry for each of the legendary Greenskin lords. So firstly, if you look at Grimgor, gives 24 melee attack, 50% armor piercing damage, and 50% base weapon damage. So when you really compare that to the other Greenskin lords, like WAAAGH, for example, WAAAGH, Skarsnik, the main thing you're really going to notice is that he gives exponentially more AP damage and just base weapon damage. So him, it's really just about being fighty, getting in there and scrapping. It really is reflected in his WAAAGH. It does also give immune to psych, which can be very good for Greenskins. A lot of time, other factions in multiplayer and in campaign will come in pretty hard with monsters that cause terror, and your orc boys and kind of your janky units are going to be essentially turning and running. So definitely very, very strong. Going to be very synergistic with some of the harder hitting units, like if you have like black orcs, for example, or even some of the monsters. Those guys are going to be getting a huge boon from that 50% armor piercing weapon damage and 50% base weapon damage. Quite scary indeed. So next we have WAAAGH. If you look at WAAAGH, it does give 25% base weapon damage, 22% physical resist, and then 25% armor piercing damage. So it seems like all of them, pretty much all the Greenskin WAAAGHs here do indeed give like base weapon damage and base AP damage, but this one also gives physical resist, melee attack, and immune to psych. So what really makes this one unique is the physical resist. And that's kind of like the Savage Orc line. If you look at Savage Orcs in campaign, they pretty much all have the physical resist, as they do in multiplayer. But yeah, it's really just kind of carrying on even further, making those Savage Orcs more durable than they, well, I wouldn't say more durable than they already are. They're not a durable unit, but it certainly helps them survive. So the next one is going to be WAAAGH. I think WAAAGH is probably as one of the better ones. If you look, it gives base weapon damage, melee attack, also gives 25% armor piercing weapon damage. But what makes it really insane is your entire army. So like I said, every little goblin and creature, critter, spider hatchling in your army is going to be causing terror and fear. It's pretty insane for sure. And I've been playing around with this one, and you're about to see this one in action. But I can tell you, I think in campaign, at least in the early game, this one's probably one of the stronger ones. Once you start fighting late game armies, obviously it's a little bit tougher to tear out some of those elite units. But in the early game, this one, man, you just buckle enemy armies, especially if you're fighting like state troops and things like that. Last but not least, we have Skarsnik, the Warlord of Eight Peaks, and his is a little bit more unique. His does actually give 10% armor-piercing missile damage, 25% base weapon damage, AP damage. So yeah, basically his kind of works really well with like hordes of goblin archers. So if you have a ton of like really haggard archer units, which, Skarsnik often does have early in his campaign, it's pretty cool. So extra AP damage on those little goblin archers. It can add up, of course, with the volume of fire. He gives base weapon damage, AP damage, melee attack, and also immunity to psychology, much like Grimgor, WAAAGH, and he himself. So there you have it, guys. And now let's go ahead and jump into a battle and take a look at all of these goodies in action. And now it's showtime, my friends. Let's get this party started and see how this battle goes. Now, you can see here WAAAGH does have his own unique WAAAGH, which is really freaking cool. And all of them are really, really strong like this, right? So for him, he gives 25% base damage, 24 melee attack, 25% AP damage, but more importantly, it makes his entire freaking army cause fear and terror. I mean, even every little goblin on the battlefield is going to be causing terror. It is so freaking hilarious. Let's go ahead and just get this going, and you guys can pretty much see the power level of this. It's really good. Now, Grimgore's, for example, is a little bit more fighty. It just has more like aggressiveness on the stat lines. As far as like raw output, WAAAGH isn't quite as strong, but it does, of course, have that really strong effect of giving terror, which I think really gives a unique flavor to each of these Greenskin campaigns. Now, if you are playing with like a second lord, for example, like just like a goblin shaman or something, or an orc or boss, they don't have that. It's only for WAAAGH. It's only for his army. So we'll go ahead and get these characters going here. So get you guys fighting here, you guys fighting here, and WAAAGH and the orc shaman can just go in and try and make friends with this Empire character. I believe he does have Spirit Leech to start out with, so we'll drop this right here. Boom, there you go. Trolls charging into spears. You can see the awesome micro indeed, but now you can see the WAAAGH meter is filling up here pretty quickly. And yeah, you can see it's based on the amount of units we have. We can pull the spears, get them on some swordsmen, and make sure our characters are actually fighting the appropriate target. Very good. Let's go ahead and use the Doom and Darkness as well to try and break the leadership of some of these units. And we'll actually wait to time it with our WAAAGH to try and see if we can get like a big rout, because it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of a rout we get once we can get that mechanic in effect. So now we'll go ahead and pop it now. So the whole army should, in theory, be causing terror. So we'll use that. Yeah, you can see that. Look at that. The spearmen are terrified right there. These guys are terrified right here. That is so freaking powerful. So there you have it, guys. WAAAGH's WAAAGH. Just like, okay, good night, army. Sweet prince. We'll see you on the other side. So that's pretty much an example of how the unique WAAAGHs are and how good they are. So now let us go ahead and jump into the post screen and see some of that sweet, sweet scrap. Now we're out of the battle, my friends, and you can see here, it looks like we have gotten some scrap. So I don't know how much, but hopefully it'll tell us in just a second. Okay, so we have a couple options. If we raise it, it'll give us +2 reputation. So up top, we'll, I don't know if +2 is a lot, but on top of that, it does also give us some scraps and everything like that. But nonetheless, this is one of our initial settlements, so we'll just go ahead and grab it. And you can see our reputation did go up. So 2 is actually relatively significant, but even just winning battles does get that for you. But it has gotten us that much closer to getting our call to WAAAGH. So our characters leveled up. We do have more scrap. We could upgrade some orc boys by giving them wizardly weapons if we want to. Or, of course, we could try and get the heavy metal upgrades and really get those guys going. So we'll go to the tech tree and look for heavy metal, which is actually right here. So we'll start with go bigger here. And that will allow us to get the heavy metal upgrades, which baseline, this upgrade gives you +2 melee attack for all orc infantry units. That includes black orcs. Really, really powerful stuff. All right, guys. And from here, excuse me, we're going to go ahead and play through. And from there, I'll be back with you guys as soon as we do get our call to WAAAGH, so I can show you guys how that looks. Now, guys, I just wanted to go ahead and jump in and show you. You can see here we have researched heavy metal. So all our orc boys and pretty much orc units in general get really, really good stat buff. Weapon strength, melee attack. Suddenly the orc boys are rocking 32 and 38 for their stats. But more importantly, it has unlocked our scrap upgrade. So not only can we give them the wizardly weapons, make them into Harry Potter, but we can also give them the padded shields if we want to, or the reinforced weapons, which 25 weapon strength, and this gives them missile parry. So let's go ahead and give these guys some extra weapon strength. So suddenly these orc boys are rocking like chosen level weapon strength at 46, which is really cool. It does take a bit of scrap, but as you get multiple armies and progress through the campaign, it comes to you real quick. All right, guys. So I'll be back once we get our call to WAAAGH, and we'll show you how that works. And now, my friends, after taking out countless Empire settlements, actually not that many, it was just a handful, but we are on turn 20, and you can see here we have gotten the call to WAAAGH. So let's go ahead and activate this bad boy. We have a little bit of scrap as well, so I guess we'll scrap some guys out. So we're going to activate this. You can see the banner does come down, and now we select a target. So, you know what? Kislev is here. Oh, look at that. Kislev could be done. We could select this as well if we want to. Faction strength rank. So you can see a trophy will be awarded for successfully raising and occupying a faction's capital. So, okay. So by going for the capital, we'll go for Kislev. So we're going to set Kislev as the target, and we want to dedicate it to Mork or Gork. So this will give missile strength. This will give weapon strength. So we're going to go for Gork for sure, considering the circumstances of our army. So now we're going to go ahead and just do this. You'll notice now we have a 20-turn clock, and we will have a WAAAGH force. Now currently, let's go ahead and go switch into this proper stance here. Just take a little bit of time. You can go ahead and tap here and see your WAAAGH army. So it's brand new right now. We just basically have a couple of troops, but as we do fight and scrap and do that sort of fun stuff, it will get bigger. So we're just going to auto-resolve this, and you'll see here, boom, that is done. Let's raise that. That'll give us reputation. It'll give us scrap. We're just going to do that. Now, that might not be the most efficient way or a thing to do, but again, it's certainly not bad. So, yeah, that is that for that initial WAAAGH. Level up the characters, and we'll be back when the next turn is around, and you guys can see as our glorious WAAAGH does indeed grow. And now we're back, and you can see we do have a couple new units in our WAAAGH. It has indeed grown in strength, and we'll keep moving up north. So we're just going to head up towards Kislev, and you can see here the trophy for Kill the Humies. So completing your current WAAAGH will reward you with the Big Humies trophy. So it does give us charge bonus and obedience faction-wide, and that's a long-term buff. It's really, really strong, and we currently have 19 turns of the WAAAGH. So basically, we don't necessarily have to hit Kislev yet. We can hit everything, but as long as we get that, our targeted goal before the the end of the road, then we're good to go. All right, guys, so it's been a couple turns, and you can see the WAAAGH is indeed growing in power. We're currently at 11 of 19, so we're going to kind of move up here. And we do, of course, have Kislev we could hit. We could also go, yeah, looks like Fort Jacopo is resettled, so we could march back down there and take that out and just keep growing it, and then we'll hit Kislev before all is said and done. And now we're here at Fort Jacopo. You can see our army has grown in strength. We can, of course, allow the AI to control it if we'd like, but again, we're just going to auto-resolve for the sake of this preview here. And we'll raise that bad boy, and good. So we've got a Potion of Strength, we've got some RORs. Things are getting real crazy, and soon we will take Kislev and claim our glorious reward. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to take Kislev. So even though it looks like I might not be able to based on the balance of power, I most certainly will. We do have our WAAAGH army nearby, and yes, it's mostly goblins, but with WAAAGH's really OP WAAAGH that just causes mass terror, we should be okay. On top of that, we do have one of the new FLC units here, the Feral Wyvern, who has joined our force. So that is WAAAGH's unique unit, and it's very powerful. 110 speed, 50 melee attack, poison, 500 plus weapon strength. No problem. So we'll see you guys after the battle, and we'll show you guys what the reward looks like. All right, my friends, Kislev is fallen, so let's go ahead and close that bad boy out. And as far as this city goes, let's see if there's any conditions we really have to do. Doesn't look like it. We'll go ahead and raise the city. I mean, of course, if we were playing a traditional campaign, we would just sack this and take the money, but in this case, we're just going to go ahead and raise it. And we got a troll. Oh, look at that. Troll units. And the WAAAGH is successful. So your WAAAGH successfully raised its target. The additional WAAAGH units shall stay with your armies for the remaining duration of the call to WAAAGH, after which you will be awarded your trophy. In the meantime, you may continue to use them for your destructive means. So we got the reward, which is the faction-wide obedience. I mean, that's super strong. I mean, especially on higher difficulties, like very hard, legendary, having the obedience and public order is super nice. So very good. So the objective has been completed. You can see the capital HUD has been destroyed, and there you have it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this preview. You got to see some of the new legendary Lord stuff, their items. You got to see the scrap system, and of course, if we wanted to now, we could actually spend a lot of our scrap to like upgrade our units. So we could just like give them some padded shields. We could give these guys some freaking reinforced weapons. You can really gear out your army and make them quite awesome indeed. So thank you guys for joining. And as far as the next couple days go, I will be having some other videos coming out covering this. I think we're going to do a really funny one where we basically have Grimgore duel and see if like he's improved. And yeah, it'll be fun. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you got to see everything you wanted to see. And if you guys want to see more of a deep dive into like the actual tech tree stuff, let me know and we can do a separate video. All right, guys, cheers. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the other side. Take care.